Oh, they
Oh,
don't hear
I
us
had
talking
us
about.
muted. Oh no.
It's okay. All you
Well,
guys missed
welcome.
was tax. Was talk about tax
Yeah, we're talking
information.
about 1099s. Welcome to Hot Takes, guys. Your favorite 1099 DIY duo, Young Shiro, Vaporwave DJ and curator, and Vaporwave, cum Witch House, cum genre bender extraordinaire, Skeleton Lipstick.
Oh, hello.
We want to welcome every
Broadcasting live from Miami right now, actually.
from Hard
I'm broadcasting
Miami
live from Miami.
with Miami Nights 1984. What's good, guys?
It just worked out that way. Isn't that fun?
It is unbelievable. We've got a hell of a show for you guys tonight.
Finally got luxury does. Finally, the tax code episode. We've been waiting for that one.
We are we may or may not talk about.
He's a very funny person.
He really is, man. Oh my God, has
It's
me rolling
really
on the reg.
I
want to welcome.
So funny in this interview. Right.
We're gonna have to have him back for a remix episode.
That's a great idea. Oh, that's a good one. That's definitely a good
yes,
one.
sir.
Good idea.
The fact of the matter is, we are very excited to talk to a demigod of the outrun and synthwave and retrowave and dreamwave and all the waves.
This is a guy who really shaped the movement of that whole sound that you've come to be very familiar with over the last 14 years, I think now. You know,
he did it very early on before a lot of people, and he did it very well, and he never stopped. And he's delightful. So Miami Nights 1984, who I've just happened to be friends with on social media for a minute, is back to get to know us and for us to get to know, more importantly, get to know him and talk about his new album, Gun Blaze Assault. So a little bit more on our guest later, but I just want to welcome all the first-time chatters and regulars and just give a special thanks to our mods and anybody who helped to repost or promote this episode. I want to make sure that you guys know everything is interactive. We do an hour of biographicals, getting to know our guest, and then the second hour you can ask questions, and I do my very best to ask them all. The chat allows you to put emojis on the screen. So just like that, put a smiley face, it's on the screen. Look at there. So fill that chat up with emojis. And remember, we have our exclamation point commands where you can type comp. Check out the Hot Takes Volume 1 compilation featuring tracks by previous talent and members of the server. Speaking of which, we now have a custom invite to the Discord server. So jump in if you want to make some friends, if you want to build community, or just have people put you on, or maybe put some other people on. You can donate if the spirit moves you. I'll get a 1099 MISC form about that, and I'll report it, of course, honestly. But all those donations go towards equipment upgrades and art commissioned by people that are in the community. So you're literally paying your neighbors if you feel led to donate. And then, of course, you can follow us per the intro. You can check out our socials. We're on Blue Sky now. If you want to jump on Blue Sky and see us. You can also follow us individually by typing exclamation point Skelly and Shiro, along with picking up a copy of the latest Vaporade, the Vaporade Live shirt by BFant if you want to order yourself one. Speaking of Vaporade, check out the full broadcast with Quiz and Don McLennan on Twitch with exclamation point Vaporade. And last but not least, check out our Spotify playlist. We have a lot of exclusive commissioned mixes for previous guests on the show, like Luxury Elite, Mesh, Keith Rankin, and a bunch of other cool people. Check them out. Before we get too far into the show, though, Skeleton Lipstick has some recommendations. What have you been listening to lately, Doc?
All right, so I'm going to start with an album off a label that I like a lot, Hush Tones, which of course released my album Death Romantique, available now. The cassettes are sold out. I do have some artist copies remaining, but that's enough about me. I want to talk about this album called Abyss of the Monkey by NEXXTS Next. I think it might be one that people have overlooked a little bit because I don't think there was like a set release for it, and Hush Tones has been putting out a lot of stuff lately. So I just want to draw people's attention back to this album because it's a very, very confusing, interesting album. It looks like it's a dark version of a Donkey Kong Country soundtrack, and it is surprisingly effective. The album is, I guess, what I would call a Hushwave album in that it's sort of a very dark, whispered, creepy tone that has some influences from Broken Transmission and some influences from Slushwave, but definitely becomes its own thing because it's a bit more haunted. So this concept of a haunted version of Donkey Kong Country was pretty interesting concept. And
You got my attention.
yeah, it got my attention too. I was like, "What is this?" I've never. I mean, it was. It's as if your Donkey Kong Country game has glitched out and put you into some weird Easter egg, and you can't escape from it. So I would recommend the song "Merciless Gorilla" from that album, but it's really good, and it's yeah, it's surprisingly like for such a with such a strange concept, very well fleshed out and a lot to listen to. And I do wish they had a cassette tape version. Do they have a cassette tape version of it? I don't know if they do. Oh wait, no.
Is it on vinyl?
They do. They do. They actually have a whole bundle for it. Actually, they have it. Well, you can get a cassette tape version. That's great. Because I would really love to listen to this album on a cassette with the the added distortion that comes from listening to things on tape. So definitely gonna recommend that for my first pick. Next pick, I'm gonna recommend an artist named K0D4M4. This is a guy. I don't know what is it, a person.
Kodama?
I'm not sure. Yeah, you familiar?
Wild. No, I imagine that's probably it's
probably
Witch House Kodama. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kodama. That's gotta be what it is with the 4s and the 0s. Well, either way, I had come across them when I was looking for new music to play at Eclipse, and this is really, really fun. It's really cool music. It's definitely made by someone who's younger and has been listening to a lot of Crystal Castles, but then also a bunch of Witch House and a bunch of like hyperpop and a bunch of shoegaze. And they are just trying to. It seems like they're just trying to combine all the things they love into one sound, and it's effective and it is well put together, and I kind of love everything that they do. And the newest album is Nothing Matters, and if you're looking for something that's upbeat and a little creepy, I would definitely recommend this album. And I'm going to recommend the track. Which one do I want to recommend off this one? Which one do I like really a lot? Well, okay, we'll just recommend the track Nowhere right now. But this person, it's just it makes a lot of like I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of hyperpop, but when you're mixing it with these other genres, then it's really cool. It becomes very interesting to me. And not that there isn't interesting, but I want to see people keep doing the same thing. This is a very different way of doing it, and it's
some innovation.
It's combining that with what makes perfect sense to me, like the Crystal Castle sound as well. Like, of course, that makes sense to combine those two things together, and then from that, you can only to build more influences on top of those two things is a really great. And I love the direction. If more artists are going in that direction, which it seems like they are, I'm all for it. So that's pretty cool. I really like that album a lot. And it was really, really successful playing their music at Eclipse as well. So keep it up. I don't pronounce it Kodama. Yeah, keep it up, Kodama. And then speaking of Witch House, the next thing I'm going to recommend is a compilation album called Witchcore Cartridge, and it's a compilation of some new Witch House music, and it's pretty experimental and pretty interesting and pretty dark and pretty aggressive. And I played this. There's this one song on it that is so cool and goes so hard, and I played it also at Eclipse recently, and the whole audience was like going crazy when it was on. It's sometimes it's difficult at Eclipse. I do like to play a lot of stuff that has trap beats in it, and sometimes people at the goth parties aren't exactly used to that. But this is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to play at Eclipse, and I need to find more of it. And it's the song "Spring Reveals Her Body" by Onkflow, Onkblo, and Insatiable Void. And this song is killer. I love it, and the audience was grinding and dancing to it, and it's high energy, but also has like that different. Also has like a trap rhythm to it, which I just love to play that sort of stuff at these dance parties because I want more of that in the dark parties. And this is like the perfect. You should download this song too. You should
probably
download this.
It's so hard to find good Witch House, man.
Well, the stuff that's like fun that people will dance. There are artists, and you find it. But the stuff that is upbeat enough, you know what I mean, that can still fit in with all the other stuff. And this song is so danceable, goes so hard, it's got such attitude to it. So you gotta get Spring Reveals Her Body on. And the album artwork for this album is super cool. So it's Witchcore Cartridge
Very cool.
You can Google that, you'll find it. And
Lux has actually been linking all these albums. Shout out Lux.
Oh yeah, I'm off the Twitter thing on my other phone. I'm looking at my album recommendations. But man, Spring Reveals Her Body. That song is so good. It's
got me
such a
sold.
good song. You download it right away. You're gonna love it, Shiro. All right, you can go, Tom. You talk.
So I don't have a hot take tonight. I would like to have kind of just a moment, just a serious comment, a conversation. Before we get the show started. It's been a difficult week. Anybody in here knows exactly what I'm talking about. I want to exhort and encourage everyone who's here to remember to take care of yourself. Hot take. It's good to be informed about current events, but you need to look out for your mental health as well. You need to find that perfect balance and keep in touch with the members of your community. It's going to become very important for us to build community here in the upcoming days. Draw your loved ones closer. I'm not particularly good at maintaining relationships. This might get a little personal, but man, don't forget to care for yourself. And then when you have those days where you're okay, to extend that care to the other people around you. And I'm talking to myself as much as everybody else. Some of my older friends, like Luxury Noise, shout out Luxury Noise, and some local friends have been really just people that I've been leaning on lately to help keep me grounded, and to keep me from becoming terrified. So without getting too personal or just, letting that thought ferment, I was sent a video by Luxury Noise, and it was a RuPaul's Drag Race, and talking about, and I'm going to paraphrase it very badly, but it was like, things like this, they're like the sun. You can look at them, but you don't need to stare at them. You don't want to stare at them. That's very bad. So I don't really have a lot of good advice other than just remember to understand that you can't control everything, but to control what you can control. Find a way to get involved. Do what you need to do to prepare and draw your loved ones closer. And you can look at what's going on, but don't stare at it. And that's all I got for everybody tonight. So with that behind us,
very well said.
Thank you. With that behind us, we have, again, a very special guest for tonight. This is going to be part of the uplifting time that we can spend together as a community. We snagged, like I said, one of the forefathers of the 80s resurgence, the appreciation of the sounds of yesteryear. One Miami Nights 1984, who has been producing since the probably late 2000s, and probably before that as something else. But as Miami Nights 1984, his work and the work of others like him was very seminal for me during that very special part of the early 2010s. Profoundly skilled, delightful person. We are very excited to get to know Mr. Miami Nights 1984 a little bit better tonight. So, Michael, would you go ahead and unmute yourself, sir? Welcome to Hot Takes.
I am unmuted.
Unmuted. Right. There he is. Wow.
There he is. All right, now.
What a setup.
Make everybody feel better about the last couple weeks. It's all on you.
Yeah. Sorry to put that on you, buddy, but we can move on from that topic. Unless you have any thoughts.
Yeah. All I got to say is, America, fuck you guys. I'm joking. I am so joking.
Sounds like a little Carmen paraphrase right there.
I am Canadian, in case you guys didn't know, but that's my hot take.
That's right.
Yeah. Hopefully we can all get through this. The future is going to be a little bit of a sketchy one, but I think as long as we can all come together and unite forces, we can turn this into a positive, guys. We can do this.
Right. Well said, sir.
Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
So,
let's get started.
we get started. Okay. So I gotta know. Let's just go back. let's go back a little ways first. What was the first music when you were a kid that you were kind of connecting with? Like, at what point did it go from just, maybe what were your parents listening to? Was there anything that they kind of put you on at first when you were younger that you kind of, oh, I like this? What were they listening to? Anything in that realm, first of all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both my parents had a pretty big influence on my taste as far as like synthesizers and stuff like that go. I mean, growing up, it was always kind of the synth sounds as a kid that always just kind of worked with me. I don't know if it's like a frequency thing or whatever, but like my mom was like very hippie-ish, so she was big into new age healing electronic music and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that definitely like played a role. And then my dad, on the other hand, was really big into, Michael Mann films, which were heavy with Tangerine Dream and stuff like that. So,
man, the early Michael Mann, the 1980s Michael Mann films, they had some of the best soundtracks ever. Very cool. I mean, Manhunter, all these things.
Definitely. Yeah. And Thief, I mean, obviously had a huge role to play with my taste in music and my early music career. So yeah, a shout out to mom and dad.
How early did you have any kind of formal music training? Did you take lessons for anything? Was there a first instrument that you started with?
Yeah, I started with guitar. I had like basic lessons on guitar, but
How old were you?
I didn't. Like early teenager. Like,
Nice.
actually, I probably started before my teens. I probably started like, I don't know, like 11, teen.
Sure. What made you want to start playing music yourself rather than just listen to it? Was there bands that you were listening to at the time? I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I was a kid of the '90s, right? So there's the grunge movement, and I was like, oh man, I gotta learn how to play Nirvana, and that's how things went when I like started taking lessons. I was like, I don't care about this theory stuff. Just teach me how to play some Nirvana.
Yeah.
And once I learned, some of that and some Green Day and stuff like that, I was like, okay, I don't need lessons anymore. I can play a power chord. I can play anything now.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of like the empowering thing about growing up during that era with grunge is that they did teach you at a young age that things could be simple but powerful and interesting. You know what I mean? So it's like,
totally.
So that's a good. So were you in any bands? Did you play with any other neighborhood people? Anything like that?
I'd jam out with some friends and stuff like that, but mostly what happened is my mom had like a 4-track recorder.
Nice.
And it probably was. I don't fully remember what brand it was, but it got me into like recording, and basically I would just make joke songs. But either way, it kind of like encouraged me to like get into recording and stuff like that. So there became this like moment, because I was a skateboarder kid, where I like
you were a
crossed
skateboarder
over.
kid too.
Nice.
Who wasn't? Where I was kind of crossing over from the grunge thing into more hip hop, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make like a hip hop album, just dissing all my friends. And
does it still exist?
I wish. I think about it all the time. Like, if only because I had the Casio Rat Man. I kind of laid my beats down on that. Yeah. And I played guitar over it because I was a huge like Beastie Boys kid. So I was like, oh yeah, it has to be this fusion of like hip hop and like kind of punk stuff.
Is that what opened you up to maybe playing with electronics, listening to the Beastie Boys music as well?
I'd say like electronic influences would have been like Daft Punk and stuff like that. So like, what was that like? I listened to a lot of Seattle radio. Like it was called, I think, 107.7 the edge. Get me wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing radio stations up. Yeah, something like that. And either way, I remember like it was like cool because they play a lot of grunge, which I was into, but every now and then they drop electronic music to be playing like Chemical Brothers and Daft Punk and stuff like that.
All
and
right.
Of course, Prodigy.
There was the concept of electronica, which wasn't necessarily even a genre. It was just like a name for electronic music that they played on alternative stations as well. It's deemed acceptable.
It's like, the one band that has a DJ in it.
Like more of an idea of like, well, how do we like rebrand electronic music for the rock kids? Well, we'll add an A.
Well
at the
said.
end of it.
Very
what I
well
mean? And then we'll
said.
play Chemical Brothers, and we'll have like we'll have some Fatboy Slim, and we'll do like
Totally.
Daft
Yeah.
Punk,
Some Eiffel
obviously.
65 and Aqua.
I don't know about that. That probably
They didn't
get
play
played on
them.
the
No,
alternative station.
no,
But
no.
like,
Well, that
probably,
might
like,
be a
Dust
bridge too
Brothers,
far.
Or like when they would do electronics, like if they did like a
We
remix
skipped
of
that
something.
part of Now 3.
I mean, we had like there was the whole like 2 soundtracks that really codified this. Might be like the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, and then like the Spawn soundtrack. Did this like whole thing where
You're
like,
missing my favorite. Isaac knows what I'm gonna say right away.
What is
it? Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Hackers,
What-
man.
Absolutely.
Hackers.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Come on.
With Halcyon and
course.
on.
Yeah,
That was on the Mortal
Halcyon.
Kombat
I
soundtrack as well.
will argue this to the grave that Halcyon On and On is the perfect song. People are like, oh, the perfect song doesn't
It's
exist.
really damn
It's
good.
like Orbital, my friend.
Yeah.
I could listen to that probably all day, every day. So
That and the Born Slippy song at the end of Train Spotting. 2 best like
By
outro songs
Underworld,
I can
yeah.
think of. Yep.
I love Underworld. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I
so
love Cowgirl.
So at what point did you start to say, I'm really enjoying, making hip hop, I'm making it, rock music, and now I'm kind of moving towards like some hip hop sort of music, which is going to place you adjacent to, working with electronics. You're already listening to the electronica that's on the radio. At what point do you think that did you think, well, maybe I'm going to start playing with synthesizers or the DAWs or things like that?
So I got into DJing.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
Nice.
Because I was always,
How did you get into DJing?
I was always like pretty intrigued about electronic music, and then I like one day after work, my friend was like, "Oh yeah, I got these turntables. You should come check it out." I'm like,
Awesome.
"Okay," and I'd always been intrigued about it. I'm like, "Yeah, sure," and he couldn't figure it out. But right away, it just kind of made sense to me. Like, okay, yeah, like use this and slow this track down and match the beats up. And I think it really pissed him off that I just kind of beat match this stuff like intuitively. And
That's talent, buddy.
Broken. He's like, I'm about to throw them away. Like, no, hold on.
And at that point, I'm like, that was fun, and it didn't seem that hard. I should pick up a pair of turntables and get into this myself.
Okay.
But I didn't really know anything about genres and stuff. I called everything techno in those days.
Oh, didn't everybody?
I-
That and dance.
Yeah. I would like go on Napster and stuff like that and be like, techno. And I'd be downloading IDM stuff and being like, oh, what's this?
Is that so? That's interesting. So is that how you started getting exposed to more electronic music beyond what was on the radio? By just being like, I think everything is called techno. I'll put that in, and I'm gonna just listen to what comes up. Is that?
Yeah,
was that
I'd say that was the start. And even then, because I was getting Aphex Twin and Square Pusher and all this stuff, and they were saying it was
yes.
techno, and it wasn't. I just
yeah.
still
Right.
assume this is all techno. And then it wasn't until, I started meeting more different people that were into like the rave scene and stuff like that were like, this is drum and bass, this is house music, this is that.
So hold on. So you got into DJing, and from DJing, you started to check out what the local rave scene was like, and then from there, you started meeting people who informed you more about different types of music and bands.
I went to like the record store and probably looked like such a tool because I was just like, I want techno music. And I was listening to it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? He was like, that's your techno music.
Oh my
I'm
god.
like, well,
You don't
there.
say.
I like the kick drum part of it, but a little funkier. And he's like, oh, like house music? I'm like,
Right.
yeah, because
There's no melody at all. There's no mids.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Can't hear any mids.
Yeah, totally. Like, this is
Daft
dark and
Punk had
depressing.
made a version of house music that was a version of Daft Punk created a version of French house music, which was, I don't know how they did it. They just made something that was very appealing to people who had started with rock music first. Such an important band or group.
Definitely.
So from there, you started to refine what spoke to you in the world of electronic music.
Yeah, and something happened where I just immediately gravitated towards, I remember what it was. I went to this house party because, I started meeting more of these people that were fully into electronic music and the rave scene and stuff like that. And they're like, you gotta come to this house party. I went and I met this person that was spinning drum and bass at the time. And they're playing that track that was like, don't ever let me go or whatever. And I was like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, it's got these cool, like, soft sections in it, and then it just goes like hard in the paint. And so that kind of sucked me into drum and bass, and I decided I was just going to start spinning that, because there was also the hip hop crossover in it too. It was like, people were scratching and stuff to it, and I was always intrigued about that. And so I was kind of like, okay, cool. I think this is like the genre I kind of really want to get into. So I started really. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like it worked in a lot of different environments with a lot of different type of like groups of people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, now all the kids call it breakcore, which is wild. But jungle and drum and bass was the hot ticket, and then jungle really got kind of bigger than drum and bass for a brief moment there, and everyone was doing the Rasta thing, and and then drum and bass went to shit. It was like, it started turning into this like kind of clowny circus sounding music. And right around that same point, I want to say it was around 2005, I had this friend who had moved to Montreal at the time, and he was kind of like my source for what was new and poppin'. And he started sending me the French electro banging stuff like Justice and all that like right when it had started off.
Did you listen to like College and things like that?
That wasn't till way later. So like 2005, it was like Waters of Nazareth, Sebastian, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And
French
at
house
that point, I was like,
Blockhouse.
yeah. And I was kind of like, okay, this is like parts that I liked about drum and bass, but now it's got this like just house beat kind of going to it. It's very simple, but it has like the raw grittiness that I was really into at the time.
Yep.
So I decided I wanted to start making that.
That Justice album was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. And it sounded approachable from like a production standard. It's like, okay,
they always used to say that they made it on GarageBand. That was like their big thing that they would tour.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was true or not, but like they would say it, and it did make it seem more approachable. And it was interesting. It's kind of interesting.
Definitely, some of them were using Reason and stuff like that too, like some of the Ed Banger homies. Yeah, and so I got Reason, I got Ableton going on, and because I did have a brief moment trying to make jungle music and stuff like that, and that kind of just got me into like cutting up samples and stuff like that, which the vaporwave community is definitely into. And I was like, okay, like this is fun, this is simple. I want to get into the French electro house stuff. So at that point, I got like a MIDI controller and stuff like that, and realized I needed some sort of basic understanding of like actual music theory on the keyboard, because I just knew how to play some stuff on guitar, but even then I didn't know what I was doing on it.
You didn't know how to program synthesizers yet, basically.
No, but it was beautiful, because once I started playing keys, it was like, oh wow, this actually makes sense. Like on the guitar, I'll always say this, it's like, play a power chord, and like the lower down on the neck I kind of know what I'm doing, but as soon as I get like higher up on the neck, I don't know what I'm actually playing anymore. Whereas on the keyboard, it's like this very simple structure that just repeats itself, and really helped me understand.
You never had formal training on piano prior to this?
No, not at all. No.
So you just taught yourself what the chords were, or did you not even know the chords at the time?
No, I didn't. And once again, my friend from Montreal, he was trained on piano. He was classically trained, and he would come over for visits and stuff. He gave me some root knowledge to kind of like help me understand what I was doing, and I just kind of went from there. And man, the stuff I was making was hot trash. And that's why I started up ActRaiser. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call myself ActRaiser. I have this Metallica looking logo and stuff like that. And it was on MySpace, and I wasn't getting any traction. And it was really like, I still swear MySpace was like the greatest social media platform for musicians, because it was so cool. You could just go through everyone's friends, and like they'd have their top 10 friends there. And in the top 10s, they'd have like, whatever they're doing for art for their like profile pic, or they'd use GIFs and stuff like that. Click on it, and they'd let you totally like customize the HTML layout of the website or how you want to brand yourself. And so I started going through all these like new disco electro house artists at the time and stuff like that. Like there's guys doing it live, like the 12s and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember them.
No, I remember that.
Yeah, they've had like a couple MIDI controllers and stuff. They'd be doing stuff live. I was like, oh, this is really cool and musical. Yeah, and through them, I came across eventually this Valerie collective, and I'm like, oh, what's this? I just cool looking. And I just put it on one day while I was kind of going around the house doing stuff, and instantly the Outrunners came on, and I'm like, whoa, and I ran to my computer. I'm like, what is this? And you know, it was just like instant nostalgia of everything I loved from the 80s and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want to start making. And so I totally rebranded myself. I made this gif of like a Countach and lightning striking and all this stuff. And I made this track called Kill Switch, and instantly it was like, boom, now you're getting all these plays, now you got all these followers. Wait,
I want to stop for a second. What was the process like in changing the way that you develop sounds from the loud, noisy, almost Justice-y inspired ActRaiser to now this new Outrun inspired? Like, you clearly have to, like, you're working in a different sound font now.
Yeah,
so
totally. So
you're like, okay, I have to, because this is a big deal to have to stop and be like, how I communicate what I feel through these sounds now. I've never done it before. Did you go back and listen to some old 80s music? What did you do? What was the process like? How did you make it?
I listened to the other synthwave or whatever it was called back then. I mean, I started calling it Outrun with Palm Highway Chase, and that seemed to, people still call it Outrun, which is really cool to me.
They still call it Outrun, absolutely.
Yeah.
You coined the term Outrun?
I coined the term Outrun. Yeah.
Wow.
Guys, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
That's pretty badass.
Phrase Outrun. Put that down.
It cracks me up. Yeah. But
all because of that, the Outrunners. It's interesting. So okay,
we called it Outrun more so because it was like music you'd kind of have on while you're outrunning the police, kind of thing.
Of
course.
And
it's not a reference to the video game.
No.
Okay.
Kavinsky. It was funny because people got in arguments with him later when he named his album Outrun. And I saw a couple people in there like, oh yeah, way to like steal this term used by Miami Nights and blah 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 blah.
Nice.
And his fan base. It turned into a big argument and stuff like that.
Yikes.
But, wow. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure he was just referencing the video game. It's
an incredibly evocative genre name. It definitely is. Absolutely. This is like speeding down the highway music for sure.
Particularly from that era of movies or aesthetics. So you have to change how you sound now. What did you like? You went back as you're trying to maybe make those big pads now at this point. The more different types of
so it became this thing.
How did
where
you teach yourself how to do that?
I feel like not to float my own boat here, but I've always been pretty good at kind of like picking up things, I guess. So I just kind of heard what they were doing, and honestly what they were doing when it comes down to it was a lot simpler than what was involved with like some of that justice stuff, because like it depends. Like with the electro house stuff, it was really about distorting the shit out of stuff and finding like a sweet, like I would write a whole sequence of things and then resample it and find kind of the funkiest cut of it and then loop and chop that and make it into something, right? Like kind of like what a lot of vaporwave artists do.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you're playing in that like too far in that sound, and it's going to be annoying to listen to. So you have to find that sweet spot when you're doing Now you're like, well, I can just focus on making something that sounds pretty and interesting.
Exactly. I can focus on like the structure of the song and like really trying to hit that 80s thing with the synths, which was, once again, going back to my childhood, what was always appealing to my ears anyways. And then really trying to invoke this feeling of like nostalgia and emotion through it. And the ActRaiser stuff I was making definitely wasn't like Miami Nights. I'd say it was like a little more like serious, like kind of badass 80s movie sounding stuff.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to click, I think, with what was happening at the time. And then of course I came across this dubstep producer who was also called ActRaiser, and it turned into this like feud over the name.
Oh my god!
And which is where I'm like, time to rebrand everything, and I'm gonna choose the longest, most hideous name I can, so I never have any problems with this again.
No one's ever gonna steal it. Yeah.
Nice.
So then,
and then they copied the fuck out of that too.
And I don't get it. It's like, why would anybody copy that? The thing I hate about this is it locks me into kind of like a synthwave sound because I've got 1984 end of my name. It's like, I want to explore so many different things. And it's like,
You can still do
whatever.
it. I mean, I think people would understand and they would follow you at this point since you've been so established. But hold on. So now you're starting to get some traction, some popularity. At what point do you start to realize that there are other, like, you now know that there are people kind of making something similar to this, but they're off on like bigger labels. They're not, they're not quite as homegrown as you are. When do you start coming into contact with the other people who are a little bit more, bedroom producers like yourself, who are just getting into it, and you start linking up with them, and then, a little bit of a movement starts to begin in the 2010s?
Yeah. So there were so many great artists that were on MySpace. There was Laserhawk, 80 Stallone, Multipack.
Oh yeah, NPM soundtracks.
Yeah.
That guy was really early on.
Yeah, and we're like, I mean, I had a French label approach me, but I was kind of like, I was new to the game, and I was like, do I want to sign my soul over to this kind of thing? Like, what's it really going to get me? Mm-hmm. And that's when me and 80 Stallone and Laserhawk were kind of like, well, why don't we start our own record label and start releasing the stuff like from all our friends that we love. And
how did you meet those guys in the first place? Was it just through MySpace connections and like?
Yeah, like
totally. Because that's how we met everybody in our scenes too. Is this through that or Facebook? Yeah.
Right. And
I mean, 80
Stallone introduced me to Laserhawk, and then me and Laserhawk just really hit it off, and we became like best buds. And 80 Stallone at that point was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna take a back seat and let you guys kind of do your thing. And then we started Rosa Corsa and just started signing people, and that's why I found Mitch Murder and
hardcore.
And
yeah, you guys released a couple Mitch Murder albums, I believe.
Yeah. Mitch was one of the OGs with us, and I think he was like obviously one of the first people I found that I was like, well, this guy, like, you introduced me as a demigod, but it's like, no. Mitch Murder was definitely the demigod. That guy is.
You can both be demigods.
Did
you guys release the one with the DeLorean on the cover, or the one with the Earth and the satellites?
Burning Chrome was his first release, and that was it. Yeah.
Fat. That's badass.
Yeah, and I believe he did that art by taking a picture of a toy car. But,
really?
Yeah.
I love that. I had no idea. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, so as you continue to produce, I assume that you were initially working with MIDI controllers. At what point do you start getting into wanting to explore hardware?
So that was while I was still ActRaiser.
Oh, really? What was the first thing you got?
Yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, well, like, I want to take this pretty seriously, and like I was originally using synthesizers. Like I think I was using Rewire through patching. What's it called that we were just talking about before? Reason into Ableton and stuff like that. And
I remember Rewire, right?
And that got me into like tracking stuff where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just recording this stuff into Ableton anyways. I may as well get like real gear and really make this authentic. So, and like gear, oh my God, those days, nobody knew what they were sitting on. I picked up like a 106 for $200.
Did you know 106
for like $50?
Nice.
You know, yeah. $200? That's crazy.
I got
what else
Poly
did you get?
61M for $100. It was
really?
Like, yeah. So I just started picking up all this gear and using it and recording it, and I was like, oh my God, like I can make a way bigger sound out of this just so easily. And I think it had to do more so with the fact that the 106 had like the most beautiful layout to really understand programming synthesis.
That is love like when you got those early 80s Roland simpler synthesizers. That make such big sounds. It's great because you really learn like the subtractive synthesis concepts and like oscillator or filters. It's like it's right there. It teaches you like step by step, and there's so few options on it, but you can see how everything affects everything. It's how the LFO can be assigned to this, and that's how this happens. Like I had one of the first ones I got was an SH101, the mono synth, and that was like it's like the same kind of layout too. Like, oh, if I do this, I do that. And like, I learned how to sequence because I had a little sequencer on it too. And those
101
were great
is so
fun.
sick for house music.
Yeah. So you got the. Do you have a so really quick? So
You got a favorite synth?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm getting ahead of us now though because I wanted to ask that later. But do you have a favorite synth? Since I just already asked the question.
Funny enough, down the road, my voice chips went on my 106, and
they're absolutely notorious.
totally,
For the chips.
yeah. And through that, there was this guy on YouTube called Syntegrator. I don't know if you guys have
Hard name.
If you're into 106s, you probably know Syntegrator, because his whole channel is about tearing down 106s and all this stuff.
I know exactly what channel you're talking about. That guy's awesome.
Turns out he lives on the same island as me.
Oh, holy shit!
Wow.
And yeah, I'm at my local music store, and they're like,
the Jupiter Kiwi 106 video. I remember that from back in the day. That guy's crazy.
Yeah. So he worked for Kiwi.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah. And we eventually get connected, and we become buddies. And he built me a custom Miami Nights Kiwi 106.
Shut up.
That's so hard, dude.
That's why I remember mostly the Kiwi 106.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's got like actual wood panels and stuff on it. It's beautiful. And it's got my logos across it and stuff.
So fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is my favorite go-to synthesizer.
That's amazing. Wow. So you are in the process of recording with hardware at this point too. And are you mastering all your own stuff too? Are you basically doing everything, or you had someone that you send it to?
Yeah, so Laserhawk was an audio engineer back in the day.
Oh, really? That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And between him and Mitch Murder, I kind of had these super valuable assets as production friends who, like, I could run stuff past them on what I was working on. They could give me tips as far as what to do with the mix and master. And lo and behold, it turned into this thing where I never thought I'd be like, other artists asking me how to master stuff and shit like that. But I think it became something I also became pretty obsessed with was the mixing and mastering thing. And it's like, it was funny because I was like in my car the other day and I was just like, let's see what these old albums sound like. And they still sounded really good in the car. I was like, I'm like, that's what I'm talking not too about. Embarrassed by this actually. Like, yeah.
That is like the greatest thing ever when you can go back and listen to your old stuff and be like, oh man, I still sounds good. You know?
Yeah. I think a lot of times
a lot of times artists will rush to get their things out before they really developed their sound or understood their instruments or understood how they like to write music. And it's really good, I think, for people to take a little bit of time just to figure out what they want before they really put out that album. Because, it's you want to be able to listen to it in 10 years and still be like, that's great. Nice job.
Yeah. I think for me, coming from like house and drum and bass and all that stuff, like especially with house music, mixing and mastering is so important. So I really wanted it to be kind of like, and the funniest thing is when we originally made a lot of the stuff, it was kind of like anti-DJ. That's why like we went with the 80s volume fade outs at the end and stuff like that, which later came to bite me in the ass when I needed to actually DJ the stuff out.
Loop time.
Yeah, totally. But with that said, it was like, I really want to still like sound like if it was played in the club, like it's gonna be able to hit pretty hard. So and especially on Turbulence, I really focused on that, like really big kicks and snares and making sure like the mix was kind of like built around that.
Do you remember exactly when, it went from just you guys kind of making this music and releasing it to all of a sudden it started to really gain traction and popularity within indie circles in like the early 2000s and 10s, and maybe a lot of blogs started covering it maybe? Do you remember when that exactly happened and what that was like? Yeah,
so we had, right from the MySpace days, there was a blog called Playmaker.
Oh yeah, Playmaker ENT.
Yeah. So it's run by this guy, Jurgen. I'm probably butchering his name, but he was like a huge person as far as like being a tool, like in a good way, to help us get the word out there for stuff. And I mean, I heard he shot all over my Christmas album, but so be
Damn.
it.
So then that's what helped gain a lot of popularity, a lot of attention for you guys. Was this.
I think it helped to a certain degree. That where things really, I think, kind of started to pop off for synthwave. And I mean, I could be wrong. I don't want to take too much credit for this, but I would guess it was when I probably started working with like Gotye and stuff like that, and I got in the Rolling Stone and all that kind of stuff.
What was that like? And how did you shoot?
It was really wild because at the time it was like the typical struggling artist story where I was laid off from work.
No.
I was like, how am I gonna make ends meet? And I mean, I had enough money saved up from record sales. I was able to pay my rent and all that stuff. But I had come across, like, I was so stuck on MySpace. I mean, this stuff still burns me now, where I'm like, get locked into one social media platform and don't expand to other things. But I came across this Facebook fan page for Miami Nights, and it was just all these lovely people just sharing my music and talking about it and stuff. I'm like, holy fuck, this is crazy, because I hadn't been writing for a couple of years, since early summer, and so I approached the mod of the page and was like, hey, I am Miami Nights, can I take this over? And his name was Paul. He's some kid from the States, super nice guy, and was like, it's yours. And that's how the Miami Nights Facebook page, right?
That's great.
And from there, I was just so touched and moved. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make some new stuff. So I made the track you were talking about, Chris.
Ocean Drive.
Ocean Drive, and that just like blew up number wise for me. I made the YouTube video of the people roller skating and all that stuff.
Your biggest song on Spotify.
Is it?
I think so. I could be wrong.
Maybe, yeah. You know what? Probably. I guess I always think about
Unless
YouTube.
We're counting
I'm
like
always
remixes.
like accelerated on YouTube is like my biggest track. But
Ocean Drive is a killer song to play at dance parties too. And I would do Terminally Chill, which was my like vaporwave, synthwave, 2000 chill wave dance party. Ocean Drive was like one of the first songs I put in my deck.
That's awesome, man.
First songs I was like, I have to have this song get played. Absolutely. I know it's a great song and people know it. It's pretty iconic.
I'm more partial to the outro
but that's
tracks.
really interesting that you wrote that.
Right,
I know they're not
so
dance
funny,
floor
Isaac.
ready though.
No, it's so funny though, but that was a big thing on that album. There's a bunch of people that were like, oh, I love the intro, I love the outro and the interlude, and it's like, okay, all the Tangerine Dream stuff. But I turned out Ocean Drive, and there's just such a huge response for it that I was like, you know what, Christmas time is coming up. I'm gonna do like a free remix and put it out. And I heard
it's a pretty good story. You're like, you're laid off, you don't know what you want to do, you're not sure if you're gonna do this any longer, and you find a fan page and you're inspired to just
Minecraft had just come out. I was playing a lot of Minecraft.
All right.
But so I turned out this remix for the Gotye Somebody track and put it out there for free, and people were hyped on it. And my buddy was like, yo, I'm gonna fucking send this off to Gotye and see what he thinks. I'm like, there's no way he's actually
real. Wow,
I don't even know. I don't even know how he found it. Yeah,
real shit.
So what happened next?
Shout out to Jason.
Jason.
But he finds the email, sends it to him, and Gotye is pumped on the track. He's like, this is sick. He's like, I want to actually release this. Gotye, okay, this goes on for a little bit. Gotye is the greatest human being I've ever met. So
I love that.
He purposely had the track tuned out of tune by like cents on the semitone. So it was like a very hard thing to pick up the key on. Like if you go on the comments on my YouTube, people are like, oh, this is out of key. And it's because it's like, without knowing what he had it in, it's really hard to hit it. And so he told me, no, you got to actually pitch this out by 2 cents of the semitone. And then everything will be perfect.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Oh, guy's brilliant. And after that, he lined everything up. Yeah, got me in the Rolling Stone, and
That's outstanding. What a cool dude.
That's fucking
Wow.
cool.
it's
dude.
so cool. And then he's like, "Hey, I'm coming to Vancouver. Here's tickets to the show. Let's hang out." I was
Really?
like, "What?" Yeah. So
Wow.
went down there, hung out with him, and man, I didn't know much about the rest of his music, but the guy was an actual proper musician on stage, playing all the instruments, putting on a real proper show, and then meeting him, no ego, just like a cool, humble motherfucker that was like down to chill and be real and talk gear.
That's really cool. Listen,
Shout out
you gotta,
Gotye.
well,
Yeah, shout out
to write
Gotye.
that song that he's written, it
Yeah.
is a very difficult thing to write a song that it can be a viscerally emotional experience that everyone can relate to. That's very rare that a song like that gets written, and once it does, it enters the the unconscious of everybody. I was at I'm in Miami. I was at Club Live, and I was going to see Cascada DJ, and he did a remix of Somebody I Used to Know, and everybody in the club sings the whole song, and it just everybody knows
It's an earworm, yeah.
Though it's like
Great way to light up the
it goes
dance
to your
floor.
heart. Like it's hard to make those songs that sound and to intelligently do that kind of emotional experience. And when it gets written, it is inside everybody forever. So that is that is no easy accomplishment. And nobody writes it takes very rarely do those songs get made. So wow, that's really cool that he was a down to earth person, considering he made something that was probably one of the most iconic songs written in the last 30 years. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
So Gotye's talking to you about gear. That's really cool. All right.
Yeah, and he knew his shit. Like he knew a bunch about 80s Italo. He knew a bunch about synthesizers and
of course he did.
It was just the cool thing was we don't talk anymore, but
well, yeah, of course.
Even by the time I finished my album, he messaged me and was like, "Hey, Mike, I'm in my car listening to your new album, and it's so good." And blah blah. It was just like, why aren't there more people like this guy? Like this guy is so cool.
I know, right?
I love it when we get people who come on and tell us stories about
more
celebrities
like
they've met that have been really decent human beings, really cool people. When we had who was talking about
when
Lady
Hotel
Gaga.
Pools met Lady Gaga.
Hotel Pools when it's like she's checking in on him about his dog that
Yeah.
Anyway, but and she called her from her personal number. like years later, he's just like, I'm gonna try this number again, and he answers it, and she answers hello. I'm like, oh my god, that was her personal number. That's crazy.
I always had a feeling she was cool.
Yeah, apparently she's just
anyway,
adorable, like a real sweetheart.
So you get that Rolling Stones coverage. Was that a lot of pressure to think I've got a lot of eyes on me right now? Do I have to do something now? And what do I do next? How do you feel with that?
It was such an interesting experience being all of a sudden open to all this criticism from people that didn't really understand what I was doing and stuff. I went in the comments on the Rolling Stone thing, and there is just so many Rolling Stone fans just hating on it. What is this 80s shit? The funny thing is too, give it 5 years or something when Stranger Things come out, I bet all those same people are like, oh yeah, the 80s, man.
Oh, absolutely.
It's ridiculous because it's they need the popular culture to inform them on what they should or shouldn't make fun of. It's ridiculous.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, there's still that gatekeeping thing of pop culture going on, but I think modern artists have it a little bit better now, but definitely back then it's it's not like it was that long ago, I guess, but Jesus, it's crazy thinking about that now. But yeah, sorry.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Continue. So how did you deal with all this? It's very interesting to be, all of a sudden.
If I'm being honest, I didn't deal with it in the best way. I had a decent growing fan base, and I went to my fans. I was like, "Yo, these people are tearing me up." I swarmed them with my fans, and
nice.
I kind of started this war in the comment section that was super toxic.
Really?
Looking back at it, it was brutal. Some of the stuff my fans were saying to these people. And it made me as I got older, kind of realize, okay, let people have their thing.
Yeah.
Let them do their thing.
It's all subjective,
it also
right?
messed me up mentally, because it was until that point, I had only had my fans that were like, oh, we love what you're doing. And now it's people telling me I'm shit and stuff like that. And it was kind of Okay. And as I grew bigger and more popular, that turned into an actual issue for me, where it was like I let them get to me to a certain extent,
Aw.
and it was like this thing where 99%, like you go on YouTube and you look up my stuff, it's like 90 to 99% of the comments are nothing but love. But
Yeah.
I would go digging through the comments and find the person that's like, dude, you suck, and just dwell on it. And be like, I think they're right. Like, it was
Do you
pretty
have any
toxic. It fucked me up mentally, but
Oh.
Do you have any suggestions for artists about how they should maybe approach that when that happens as they get like more popular? Like, because that's going to come when it comes with popularity. Also comes, criticism. Do you have any like maybe
yeah,
suggestions you would
definitely,
tell young
definitely.
artists who might approach that same problem as well, so they don't fall into it?
100%. Learn from my mistakes, and don't let that be the part of your brain that you're focused on. If you have some success, you have success for a reason. And there's a lot of
Good
people that
answer.
are loving what you're doing, and focus on that love aspect and what the people are enjoying. And not that small 1 or 2% that are hating on you because they have nothing better going on in their lives but to try and bring you down. Because that's really what's going on. It's jealousy, and you might have the imposter, like I was definitely dealing with imposter syndrome from the whole thing. Don't fuck things over the people love you for a reason, and just focus on the love. Keep writing, keep turning stuff out. Because I had this major lull. I let a lot of artists like pass me and stuff like that because I was just like, oh, nothing's good enough, until finally like I found peace with myself and went over all this material I was just sitting on, and I was like, what the fuck, man, just put it out there. And that was sentimental.
So what you're saying is look at the rate your music reviews, don't stare at them.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even go searching through it. Like, if you're happy with it and you have a fan base, just keep making art. Follow your instincts. Don't listen to these haters and stuff like that, because I mean, as somebody who like back in the day could easily hate on stuff too, it's like that shit'll just consume you, and it's toxic as fuck.
It's good advice, man. Thank you for sharing that with everybody here. That's really helpful. Like, people need to understand that. Can I ask you? So now you've reached back into your archives. You're starting to get back into producing and putting yourself out there again more. At what point do you get get approached to do that soundtrack for Flinch?
So Cameron had been in touch with me for years, and he had been working on other
first. Because he was an
Pardon me?
actor prior to being a director, I think.
He was an actor, but he had directed other stuff besides Flinch. Flinch was his actual film that he like wrote and directed, and he had always been like, I want to work with you. I want you to do the score for one of my films. And that's always been the dream for me. I feel like it's really easy for me to procrastinate over my own material, but if I have like a visual influence in front of me, I can just like hammer content out. And being like a cinephile and stuff like that, it was just like, I feel like it was meant to be. And so it was like really cool to have a visual influence in front of me, because all that stuff I literally synced it. So I was like, I had the visuals playing in front of me, and I'm like playing everything live to the visuals.
So you were playing live to it.
Yeah, which was really
That's challenging.
cool
Yeah, that's
for me
pretty
because
hardcore,
it
dude.
threw me out of being like strictly programmed, which is how I always did things. Everything needed to be so tight and stuff like that. It helped me keep things loose. It's funny because when you listen to it, still
More like a DJ.
it feels pretty tight. Yeah,
It does, yeah.
But no, that was all on the fly. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely went in there and tightened
You can go back
things
and edit,
up.
but you were tracking it live, and of course we go back and edit these things. But
Totally.
Just so everybody's aware, there's a 2020 2021. Kind of like a crime thriller film called Flinch, was directed by this guy Cameron Van Hoy. He's probably going to be pretty big. He's got a new movie that's coming out soon that's written by David Mamet, and I think it's got like Nicolas Cage and J.K. Simmons in it. So this guy is it's an interesting guy who's probably got a big career coming up. And this was his first big movie, Flinch, and I guess he was a fan of you, and that's just to inform the audience. And so anyway, that's what we're talking about right now. So anyway, you're tracking this album. So did you? What was the process? So he would give you. Did he finish the whole film and give it to you? I just want to understand because this is like a movie, a big movie. You know, there's a lot of interesting visuals in it. So did you receive the whole movie at once? Did you read the script first? Like, what was the process like?
Everything is broken up into timestamps and scenes. So basically, I would have the full film, but then I'd also have a cue sheet, and on the cue sheet I would have my timestamps, because when you are doing syncing, there's the time in the bottom left corner of what you're working on, and from those timestamps they'd be, okay, I need music from here to here kind of thing. This is what it's kind of got to be like. And Cameron,
you describe what the music had to sound like. Is that what happened? There'd be notes for like.
Cameron just let me go. He was kind of like,
wow, all right, cool.
Originally he was like, well, here's kind of like sample footage and show me what you can do. And instantly he was just kind of like, dude, this is fucking sick.
Nice. He was already a fan. He even wanted to work with you. I mean, you is a great first person to work with for a soundtrack, you know?
Yeah, totally. And like, I really appreciate him giving me as much freedom as I had with it, because it was kind of like, you know, it's always hard, I think, when you're an artist and then you're kind of like giving up part of that art to another artist to be like, okay, well, how can you collaborate with this kind of
Very
thing?
good point.
But it's hard enough even working with an album cover, you know what I mean? Like you're
totally, yeah.
So this is like whole.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you listen to it, there's obvious influences in it from like Tangerine Dream and Vangelis and stuff like that. But it was just kind of what, you know, I'm doing this crime thing. It's like, fuck yeah, I want some Tangerine Dream sounding shit in there, right?
Right,
yeah,
absolutely.
For sure, man, for sure.
So
Well, I think we have time for maybe one more question before we got to start the audience questions.
We're gonna get to it. Hold on. We'll get to it. So did you record it? Did you use Ableton to record everything, or did you use a different DAW?
Yeah, Ableton's such a great DAW because you were able to load the video into it.
Yeah.
So so it's beautiful. I could load the whole film in there and then live sync everything. And for each of the sections that they needed music, it'd be a new project, but essentially the same video file, just different timestamps kind of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of pieces on there. My only thing is I kind of wish when he released it as a soundtrack, I wish I went over it to kind of make things make more sense as a listening experience, because I feel like taking the parts from the film and just throwing it in there's some stuff that it just goes on too long that I could have tightened up and shortened up as far as the actual album goes. But I have the vinyl, and whenever I put it on, I'm like, I'm proud of it. I put it on like, this is like a really cool listening experience. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
And the 106 was like the main dominant synthesizer for almost everything
really?
on that. Yeah.
Makes a lot of
That's
sense.
what I'm talking about. Well, hey, I hate to interrupt because I'm having an awesome time, but we already have some excited fans in chat that have questions that they want to answer.
Awesome.
So y'all,
we gotta get to the new album at some point too. But
we got to talk about Gunblaze Assault. So guys, fill that chat up with questions for Miami Nights 1984. Luxury Noise, longtime fan, had a question that he wants us to
Richard
start off
Michael
with.
Owen's in the chat. So Richard Michael Owen is the person I was talking about. That was my guy from Montreal. That's always been the source for music. So happy to see you here, Richard.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Richard, I was talking about
Glad
you
to
teaching me
have
some
you
basic
here.
piano chords back in the day. Lots of love for you here, buddy. And
What
he's
an
a
honor.
huge Vaporwave fan
Welcome
too.
to Hot Takes, Richard Michael Owen. Man, Luxury Noise wants to know about the synths behind you, man. Talk about the synths behind you that are in the
Glad he asked that question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, up top, oh man, it's such a sad story. So we bought a place over the past year. I had to move my studio here. And I'm like, okay, I want like the mother of all synth racks. So I got the Jasper rack, and my Model D, like 2 months after moving here, just decided to launch itself off the top of the rack.
Oh,
but
no.
yeah, there's the Model D.
Was that the end of it?
The Behringer Model D? That's what that is up there?
No, that's the real deal. That's a Moog.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when it launched itself off, it was unusable, inoperable after that.
No, it survived it. It's built like a
Okay,
tank,
what a relief.
but unfortunately the wooden body on it took a bit of a hit. It's a little beat up from it. So
Gotcha.
I mean,
What kind of
it's the-
synth rack was it again? Which
it's a
type of rack?
Jasper. So they fixed this problem on the modern ones. Apparently, on the modern ones, you can actually like screw the feet in better on it. But on these, it's crazy that this is such a popular synth rack. But the feet just pop out on it, and it's like
Yeah,
they're the actual like prongs that hold the synths into place. So it's like
Yeah,
That's
I
not great.
have a Jasper. I have those racks as well for my stuff at my place too. But I was just like, wait, what? It broke?
Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta
Yeah.
go check on some now. But I have a newer version of mine. I just bought like a couple months ago. So that probably is the one that isn't going to drop my synthesizers.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
All right, good.
We
Anyway.
got the Prophet 6. I used to be a Dave Smith artist, and so it
Wow.
was like a huge honor for them to like send me the Prophet 6 and all that stuff, and I love it. It's a great
Amazing.
synthesizer. The only thing that sucked is being Canadian. By the time it got here, I may as well have just bought it from the music store because they hit me hard at the border for it.
Oh, I bet they did. Damn.
Yeah, I got the 101 clone. I know you're a fan of that one, Chris.
I do love the 101. Yeah.
Yeah. I love like the punchiness of the bass for like doing house music stuff and just kind of really hitting through. It's big. You gotta make it fit in the mix. Basically, I just cut everything out for it whenever I hit it with it. But
Oh, wow.
and then of course Kiwi 106 is my go-to synth. That and the one underneath it, which is the Judo 60.
Oh, you got Juno 60
Wow.
and a 106.
Yeah. So
Now, all right. So since you have both, can you tell me like what do you prefer the 106 to the 60 then? Yes.
that's a tough question. So
Yeah, it is.
I love the 106, but they both have their place. So the 60 is
Tell me
like
about
a
what you find
little
the
bit
difference
harsher.
between the two,
It's a little harder to tone it down, but if you want the smooth kind of sexiness, you go with the 106. You want a little bit more punch, you want a little more aggression, you go with the 60. That would be like the best way of sort of differentiating the two of them because they have two very different filters in them. So past that, a bunch of drum machines.
what drum machines?
Nice.
I got the DMX, got 707 there. I've actually got my Lindrum in the closet for the time being.
All right. Classic.
Yeah. Got the 808 clone. I picked up the MPC Live with this like fantasy of being like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the park and make all these beats and all this stuff. But then I discovered Koala on my phone, and it was like, this is kind of safe, especially for making vaporwave stuff. It's like, it's a ton of fun. Guys, don't sleep on Koala. It's a ton of fun. Check it out. I'm actually thinking about putting out a sample pack for it too, because I have the sample pack that I made for obviously my Koala. It's like, people could probably be having fun with this making vaporwave stuff because I basically sampled all my romplers and just put it in there. So
Nice.
And then underneath that we get into more kind of the digital stuff. So I got AX80, and then the very bottom, which has broken keys on it because that's where the Model D landed, unfortunately. And it was a mint AX80. Which I got off Syntegrator. Good old Syntegrator again.
Oh, wait, Syntegrator again?
Yeah, for like $180. It's insane. It was mint. It was
Unreal.
so beautiful. Yeah.
Akai AX80 is pretty badass.
Spot underneath it's empty, but that's usually where my DX7 goes because the stuff I put at the bottom of that rack, it's like stuff I'm not going to be menu diving, and the DX7 is like a nightmare to program anyway, so it's like I usually just use it for stock FM sounds anyway. So
Of course.
Hard. Man, we got so many
Wait,
questions.
have we covered everything? Is that it?
Have
you
we?
want me to cover? Well, there's a whole other part of the studio here that like
Let's go.
like
Let's go.
the gear. Just
You know
kinda
what?
goes
Let's
on
do
and
it.
on, so.
Let's do it.
Let's go. What else we got?
So my Rompler collection. It's funny because I used to preach like, oh, if you're gonna buy hardware, don't buy digital, just buy analog. There's no sense to buying digital. But then I got into making vaporwave, and it was like Romplers are everything. I became obsessed with them. So JV1010, Akai, SG01K. I got the Roland Sound Canvas, Roland JV880, and then the something is somewhere else. I mean, I got this rack here. You kind of see, which is I call the Tower of Power.
I love that.
We got the Super Jupiter in there, which is basically a Jupiter 6. We got a Matrix 6R from Oberheim. I actually have a Oberheim OBXA that's locked up in the basement because it's so temperamental. I'm trying to sell it. That was like one of my holy grail synthesizers I wanted so bad, and then
Thank
just
you
like
for addressing that. That was going to be a follow-up question.
But it became this hindrance to me because I'd be like, okay, like it's such a sick synthesizer for like French house brass and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, I want to use this, but then you turn it on, it needs to warm up and do its thing, and then some days it'd be like, I'm just not going to work properly, everything is going to be out of key.
No.
And it's like, and then it just kills your motivation to make music, and it's like, all right, I should probably look at just flipping this thing. And then we got ARP 2600.
Nice.
And then honestly, one of my favorite pieces of kit is actually the TR8 from Roland, which was so I reskinned it to make it look like an actual 909. But for just writing, it's such an awesome tool. Like you can just hammer out your 909 stuff, your 808 stuff so quickly compared to like a real one, because it actually makes sense how to write with it. And the sound is really good on it. And then usually what I'll do is pump it through this Mackie mixer here, which I believe is the 1604.
So that's actually a very interesting thing. So your everything goes into the Mackie.
Yeah, because I use it as a sound design tool. The Mackie
which one was it again? A Mackie, which brand? Which?
I believe it's the 1604. And the cool thing about the Mackie 1604, you're taking notes, man.
Of course I am. Well, I'm redesigning my.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
The cool thing about the 1604 is if you want genuine lo-fi, it can give you the sickest sounds because the distortion in it is pleasing. So if you want to push it into the red, it will actually make your stuff sound sick as fuck. To the point where, like, the reason I got into it is there's drum and bass producers that were designing their bass lines by purposely redlining an 808 kick into the 1604 because of the distortion it would make. Yeah, so I was like, okay, this is dope. And then I would pump my house sounds into it and it would just add grit into it that like I couldn't emulate into the DAW properly. Past that, also one of the other tools I really like for that kind of stuff, and it's great for vaporwave, is I got a Tascam Porta Studio.
So you run it through the Tascam Porta. I do.
Totally. Yeah, and I'll do that for drum samples and stuff like that too. I'll pump it into there, or I'll pump it into my Emacs and downsample it to 12-bit.
Interesting.
And
awesome.
and it just gives it like extra like oomph and grit. But I think that pretty well covers everything out here. I mean, there's a bunch of like outboard gear. I don't think anyone like. I got distressors and Fatsos and the Tube Tech, API 5500.
What a treasure room.
Yeah.
Really quick. So, do you control all the synthesizers from a particular MIDI keyboard, or are they running through, or you just play them?
No, I do everything. I run MIDI to everything because I like everything.
So
to
everything
be
is
locked
connected to MIDI then.
Yeah. So I pump MIDI out from my RME sound card, and then that goes over to my Edirol UM880, and that'll split the MIDI up to every synthesizer in the room, and from there, it's like I like being able to write in front of the DAW. So
you like the Edirol for your? So you like the Edirol for your MIDI outstation then, basically?
I do and I don't. I'm a Mac guy.
That was another one I was looking at recently. Okay, go ahead.
The Edirol is rock solid, and aesthetically it looks sick. Windows, it still works great, but once Apple switched to Apple Silicon, it turned into a nightmare. So
really,
because it would convert USB to MIDI. So now what I have to do is send MIDI out and split the MIDI. So it still works for me, luckily, because I have MIDI on my sound card. So Yes and no. I mean, if I was looking at a modern one, maybe I'd look at the Motu, but I don't even know if they still make those
I was
anymore.
looking at solid state logic, and they had like the SSL 18 US, and then there was some other stuff. Oh no, the MR. There was another one, the MRCC MIDI router. But what would you look into nowadays? You said
For MIDI,
yeah, for a hub station
uh,
for MIDI.
like I said, I'd probably go with the Motu. I think that's what FM Attack uses.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, you can also just get a cheap splitter. Like I built onto the Jasper because I hate cables and stuff like that. I actually have a patch bay built into the Jasper, and then I have a MIDI patch bay built in there too. So what I'll do is, instead of having cables running at all things, I know for some artists they want everything to be hooked up at all times, but I just don't like cables going everywhere. So what I'll do is I'll just patch things in when I need it, kind of thing. And I just have like a cheap little MIDI bay on there that was like, I don't know, like $80 or something like that.
Okay.
And it does like a 4-way split. Like, how much gear do you have, Chris?
I got about like 9 synthesizers.
Okay, so the Motu or the UM80 might make more sense for you at that point. But yeah.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah. All right. I got it written down.
Man, I am so sorry to interrupt. We've got a huge.
Here. I'm so sorry.
No,
do the other question.
no apologies are necessary. That was brilliant. We just have a lot of excited fans questions.
This is good because this will be on YouTube, and go back to this interview.
We got a lot of hardware heads that tune in. Let's do a quick light one. I'm going to jump ahead. Your good friend Richard Michael Owen. He want to know what you guys are drinking. I'm drinking Truly Citrus Squeeze. What about you guys?
Drinking a Celsius Peach Vibe because I got to go out after this.
I am drinking a custom blend scotch.
Nice.
I knew it was going to be something classy. Chris, what is that green shit you've been drinking?
Oh, that's just like I like been going out a lot, so it's my little vitamins that I mix into it.
You must have to piss like a bastard right now.
Maybe we'll use the bathroom.
Yeah.
No, I'm on vacation right now, so going out a lot.
Juice cleanse and
I have to like rehydrate and revitamize myself, so I've got my little mix of.
The doctor would know.
I mean, I guess.
Archangel wants to know, Michael, were you born in 1984?
That's the hot question, isn't it? No,
it
I was born in 1982. I am old. Yeah, 84 the whole Miami Nights 84 thing that was the opening season of Miami Vice.
Love that show.
There we go.
Yeah, I have so many people that reach out to me. They're like, "Oh, I was an '84 kid too. It just means so much to me." And it's like,
"Oh no, you're gonna break their heart."
Real quick,
hey Isaac, 82, Blade Runner. Let's go.
There you go. That's right, Blade Runner, baby. Nice. Are you much of a Miami Vice fan? I mean, I feel it sounds like a stupid question. I mean, do you have any favorite episodes? Like, real quick before we go to the other questions.
Probably the episode with Phil Collins.
I love that episode. Yeah, where he's like a snake oil sales guy, kind of.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's been so long since I really want to like revisit the Michael Mann Miami Vice movie. People shit on it.
No, I actually haven't seen it. Maybe I'll have to see it at some point.
I think people have grown. I think maybe they did initially, but it's grown quite a fan base for.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Oh, he's a game show host. Thank you.
People really do, I think, respect that film a lot now. I mean, it took like a while, but I think people kind of get it now. It's a great movie. It's really amazing to watch. Beautiful.
Yeah. Film. Yeah, I've been mostly like into 90s cinema lately, though. It's like I said, Hackers is like my favorite movie. And then I really want to revisit that movie with Jude Law. I think it was called Shopping. You guys remember that?
Where they like crashed into like the mall?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that in years. I gotta watch that. It's a great idea.
Because it's like there's something about when I watched the trailer, I'm like, this looks like a sick vibe. I remember when I saw it when I was younger, it like didn't really click with me, but I think everything I'm into now, it just makes sense. But yeah.
You much of a Train Spotting fan?
Definitely, I love Train Spotting. I mean, it doesn't hold a flame to Hackers for me. The thing about Hackers is it's just such a good vibe. Yeah. Train Spotting is a great film, not the greatest vibe.
Yeah, true. Just 90s cinema. We were talking about it in the chat, so that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Love that. Thank you for humoring me on the Miami Vice question. Roche Corp, great question. Are there any newer vaporwave, synthwave, or chillwave artists that you've been fucking with lately?
Oh man, like so many. Synthwave, I'm
Let's
not
hear
big.
some.
I'm not a big synthwave fan, if I'm being honest. There's one artist that does synthwave. L'avenue is
Oh yeah,
sick.
L'avenue,
Check them
nice.
out. Yeah, and they got like a bit of the vaporwave thing going on, which is cool. In fact, one of the things I'm working on, I'm like doing this business wave kind of thing. And it's kind of along those lines a bit. It's very like chilled out rompler 80s big city vibes. As far as like vaporwave and stuff, I'm a big slush wave guy. So desert sand, big desert sand guy.
Just on the
I
show,
love
like
this.
last
I
week.
know. I was talking about that with Isaac. I'm like, oh, I love everything they do. I love the fact that they aren't plunder phonics too. It's like they do everything from scratch, including the fake Japanese singing, which is hilarious but awesome.
Yeah.
I love like picture plane.
Same.
Yeah, picture plane is just so dope and sexy. Shout outs to Richard because DJ Heartstring, he got me into DJ Heartstring. Been really into the trance revival that's happening.
Oh yeah,
It's really sick. Love a lot of like stuff from Spirit Goth and stuff like that. As far as like modern goth music goes, they're a channel on YouTube. Noah Praise God is really sick. Not quite vaporwave, but kind of like modern trap, almost witch housey to a certain extent. Don't quote me on that. As far as like vaporwave stuff too, slower pace for barber beats and stuff like that.
nice. Okay, so Barber Beats
my
love.
favorite like vaporwave artist was probably Linshaven, and their side projects too.
Man,
They have
rest
this
in
really
peace,
great,
fucking Lynn's Heaven.
right? What a sick
guy.
producer. Yeah, and like everything they did, like their side project, they had a breaks side project that was released.
Really?
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember what
Wow.
it was called, but it was like a bunch of neon lights in a circle for the imagery for it.
Oh, that's too
really cool stuff.
Okay.
It's not vaporwave or anything, but anything Toro does, I'm a huge fan of.
Toro y Moi.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
That's more the chill wave thing, but I'm still
Yep.
a sucker for chill wave.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
those
dude, me
things are
too.
different. Every album
too.
is different.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm actually just gonna scroll through my playlist.
Do it,
here of
man.
stuff
I had
listen
just
to.
posted a Teen Days track just the other day on Blue Sky.
Are they still making stuff?
And the man himself, yeah, he's got a side project. I want to say Pacific Coliseum is Teen Days' like lush lo-fi house side project.
Oh,
So
sick.
it's pretty cool. I think that's him. I'm gonna be so embarrassed if it's not. But he commented on my shit and he was like, "Oh, I haven't thought about this track in ages." But it sure was an important track to me, you know.
Yeah, get them on. I'm a big fan of
We should
the new
get Teen
Safe
Days on.
Mind.
Safe
Have you been
Mind.
fucking with Safe Mind? Yeah,
I've
it's the
not
new
heard of
Boy
Safe
Harsher
Mind.
project.
Okay.
So it's Boy Harsher with Lucy, and it's pretty solid. It kind of had their first big track on repeat nonstop. Sex Dick is sick. I don't know if
Sex
a lot of
Dick.
people know about. Yeah, Sex Dick is like a fake PlayStation OST. Yeah, you came across it too?
Yeah, the game. It's a fake
Yeah,
game.
it's so good. Yeah, it's good shit.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's one of those things where I think if you're terminally online like us, we're probably going to have the algorithm feeding us like the same kind of shit, but I feel like that's how you know you're ahead.
Yeah.
It's like if you get this stuff that's recommended to you at the time, it's got like 100 plays. Before it gets to the thousands, it's like you're doing something right with what
right.
you're listening to.
That's what I'm talking about.
As far as like pop stuff goes, I don't know if I'm gonna get ripped up for this, but I've actually been digging Magdalena Bay for like poppier stuff. Like they obviously
I think
took
we've
a
got some
vaporwave
pretty
influence.
big Magdalena Bay stands in chat.
Oh yeah,
It's
people love
insane
it.
to me. I think they're really brilliant too with how they've marketed themselves, because instantly I'm like, these are industry plants. There's no way you just come out of nowhere and you sound this good. You got music videos that look like this and you're just blowing up. And so it was smart because I searched, Magdalena Bay industry plants to see what would come up.
What
And they
happened?
named their tour industry plants. So,
Unreal.
yeah, it was really smart marketing.
That is really smart marketing. Damn.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. Besides, sorry.
No. Well, I didn't want to cut you off, but I felt like
Yep.
you bringing industry plants up was a really good segue into a question that Robin Circle asked. If you're okay with me going ahead and moving on, they wanted to
Let's
know
do
what
it.
your thoughts on AI in music today is.
Oh wow, what a
Great
hot
question.
topic to jump
That's
into.
Hot topic.
Answer
I,
as you see fit.
Yeah, I am currently at war with it. I hate it. I think like when Suno came out, it was funny because I was showing friends it. Richard, of course, I got him into it. But I'm like, when all the newest AI stuff comes out, I usually get into it. I usually beta test for it, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is neat. But then it starts to hit too close to home, and it starts to take money out of my pocket, and it turns into this thing where it becomes a real scary sort of future scenario. So,
What are you most worried about?
So I've been talking to a bunch of different artists that rely off of their music for a living, like myself, and all of us have had the same analytics from Spotify, where all of us over 2024 dropped by about 40% on streams. And yeah, and this is across the board, same figures for everyone,
Why?
just this downward slope. Well, there's a bunch of theories, but one of them happens to be the fact that Spotify is driving artist audiences away from them to their own AI generated bullshit to pocket,
I don't
more
like
revenue,
that.
right? And that's where it's kind of like, okay, this is like
really
the average
hate-
listener, the average normie kind of listener is just like, put on synthwave. Hey, whatever, smart assistant, put on lo-fi. And so
it's
now you're
crazy that we have like just given that up. The idea of like
Yeah.
stuff, and we've given it up to one.
Fucking monolith.
right.
It's crazy.
I don't like that power concentration.
I don't. It's crazy that like I just remember when when in the 2010s, there were all these homegrown blogs, and you could kind of like get yourself on, like you could talk to people directly, you could link up with other artists, there was different ways. Like I have like a nice little like press kit of all the nice things that blogs had said about my music from back in the day, and so
Yeah.
there was like that's like. No, now it's like no one reads blogs. Like you have to be on that Spotify curated playlist, and that's like your best
That's
bet.
just it. Totally.
My most
popular songs are all just the ones, the few that were on the Spotify playlists. That's like everyone's vying for the spot on the same fucking platform. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And all musicians in the entire world on the same fucking platform, vying for a few spots on whatever playlists come up over there. Because, like you said, the normie's going to be like, put on synthwave, and then the Spotify curated playlist will come up. And now that's like everyone. That's like it's ridiculous.
I will say, like, I'm lucky enough that I have a fan base,
You develop
and
for Spotify though too. You know what I mean? That's the thing.
yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like my plan now is going release heavy. Just gonna pump out as much content as I can to kind of like fight the machine.
Oh my God.
And
Nice.
see what we can do. But
Throw some sand in
like,
those
I see my
goddamn
friends-
gears.
No,
Right.
like, I hate it because I see what my friends have to do now.
Who rely like solely on music to make their living. I'm very good friends with this goth band called NITE. These two twins have this like sort of like death rock band, and like they now rely on like making these Instagram reels where they're like, this is what it would be like to be a goth in the 90s, and then they have like because people like click on these templates that you see all the time for and it's not like that doesn't feel like them, but it's like they have to do these like these same templates that get a lot of plays on TikTok or Instagram in order to promote, and it's just so fucking tacky. Like I hate all the Instagram reels and all those TikTok like things all the time. Like like POV, you're it's 19.
But
like,
it
I
does
hate-
work sometimes.
Oh,
Like
It's
have you?
just so it's
It's
stupid.
soul-sucking,
It's gonna look so
but, like-
stupid in 10 more years from now. People will go back and look at
what the culture was like. They're gonna think like these people look like fucking clowns. This is dumb. Like they have to do a lip sync video to get. Like,
Have you
people to-
seen Sunglasses Kids Insta reels and TikToks though? Like that guy fucking. I didn't know. if I had to like guess who was gonna blow up, I don't think I would have guessed Sunglasses Kid. But like,
once again, I was saying earlier, I'm like, I am so bad at being stuck into one social media platform that works for me. So I was stuck in Facebook for so long because that's where all my following was. It was like you go on there, it's
30,000
plus followers,
gone now.
and then you go across all my other ones, and I look like I'm a new artist practically. So I'm like, okay, I got to promote my Instagram. Right?
I go to another, like, starting the bomb another school. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm focusing more on Instagram and stuff now. And I keep seeing Sunglasses Kid on there, and it's like, holy, when did this happen?
I mean,
because
he was good. Day, I always liked his shit.
He had no bad talk towards Sunglasses Kid whatsoever. But I mean, like, back in the day, he wasn't like that big or anything, and I hadn't seen anything from him for forever. And then I go on Instagram, and this guy's fucking massive on there.
All of a sudden he's blowing the fuck up. I'm happy for him. I like Sunglasses Kid.
He's a sweetheart of a human being. He's incredible.
He seems like it.
Social media stuff. I'm gonna have to look it up now. I mean, I don't really watch.
Well, hey, I was just trying to provide a lighthearted counterpoint. That's all.
So, like, I specifically, like, I've grown so disgusted. Like, I won't repost anything any longer unless it's my friend, right? Like, I don't follow any influencer. I don't like. Nowadays, like, I used to repost stuff from other Instagrams, so I'm like, oh fuck that, I don't want to do that. And now you can
always use the photography.
That's why I got into photography as well.
Yeah, use the photography.
Well, because I wanted to I'm like, why am I reposting other people's weird imagery?
It's a perfect visual accompaniment.
Well, like, I can make my own weird imagery. So now, like, I just, like...
Yeah. You don't need me to tell you that.
Or I buy art books, and I take pictures of the stuff in the art book and post it in my story. Yeah. Rather than go to some other, like, person's, like, Instagram or whatever and repost that. No, I'm done with this. I'm done with that shit. I don't want to do it. But, anyway.
Let's go ahead. And I'm sorry to make us move on, but we do still have some other really great questions. Memory Design wanted to know, and they were very excited to know, what synths did you use to recreate such an incredibly accurate classic PS1 sound?
Well, we can also get into the new album with that one too.
Cool, thank you.
That's coming up.
That's coming up. Great.
Yeah, I'm really glad people have been appreciating the sound of that. Once again, that was all Rompler stuff. So that was Sound Canvas. That was the SG-01K, JV1010, and the M1. The thing with like all that PlayStation stuff, like, once again, they were using a lot of Rompler synths for that stuff and wavetable synthesizers because the sounds were the closest thing to real instruments, and they just fit in the mix perfectly. Like, one of the things I'm really proud about with Gunblaze Assault is actually the end mix and master on that album, because when I was originally doing it, I had actually downsampled everything, and I purposely made it sound pretty like lo-fi and gritty, but then I was like, okay. Yeah, once again, it's like, okay, I got to push this out now to fight the machines. I got to make this like attractive to the overall listener.
Yeah.
And plus, PlayStation use CD quality audio, right? So I was kind of like, you know what, fuck it. Let's do a really clean master on all of this. Oh, the 106 is in there too, by the way. There is actually
nice
a proper synthesizer in there. Yeah. And actually, I use the monopoly too for a lot of the bass lines and stuff like that.
Oh, you got a monopoly. I love that guy.
Yeah. I think that covers all the. 505. Cool. 505's in there quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
that's my custom 505 back.
Do you have a D50?
I do. Yeah. Love the D50.
I love
the NES.
That's my favorite. Yeah. That's my favorite synth. I think it's so strange.
It's so weird with the oscillators and on one end, and then the samples on the PGY, and
aesthetically, it's so sick too. It's like the Darth Vader synthesizers.
I got the controller for it too, the PGY 1000.
Oh, cool. Yeah, what I actually use, I don't know if I can bring this in here, but I actually just I have an iPad at all times, and
nice, barely off screen.
Yeah. So I have that like mounted over there, and then through there I have a MIDI programmer that works with all my synths that need that kind of stuff. So I'm not menu diving through the synthesizer. It gives me like a proper layout for actually programming the gear.
Very cool.
Well, if you don't mind me skipping ahead a little bit, audience, that actually leads right into Luxury Elite's question. That we knew you were going to want to know.
Another artist I'm a big fan of for Vaporwave. Shout outs Luxury Elite.
You have good taste. She wants to know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She wants to know if you could tell us a little bit more about Gunblaze Assault. She says she thinks it's really cool that you made a fictional soundtrack album. If you could just tell us a little bit about it, give us the pitch on it.
Okay. So yeah, I did actually want to talk about this a little bit too. Like, I think AI can have its role as far as like a tool to inspire. And I mean, without the AI there, who knows if I would have done Gunblaze, because it started off with image generation, and I was doing some like anime image generation stuff, and then I did this thing. I was like, ooh, like that could really work as the cover of a PlayStation game. Now, with that said, I hired my friend who is an incredible artist, Dead Mascot on Instagram. Check them out.
Dead Mascot.
And I hired a real artist to redo everything and actually make it proper.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. But the original motivation and inspiration, it all came from the AI image. And
Dead Mascot.
And like I was saying, like when I did the soundtrack for the film, I am like a visual based person for inspiration on stuff. So for me, I had a lot of like mech side-scrolling shoot 'em up games playing, and would just write music while I was kind of watching the gameplay footage and stuff like that, and really trying to like hone in on what the Japanese composers were doing with stuff like that, and try and emulate that. And it became one of those things where it's like, if I have a theme and something like that, like I hammered out the majority of that album in a weekend, and I just sat on it. I just sat, like, I'm pretty sure me and you talked about it years ago. I'm like, when I'm done this, I'll come on the show, and then finally I had a reason why I had to finish it.
Oh wow! So you had a reason, and that was so you could come promote it on our show.
So you can come on Hot Takes. Glad we can help.
Cool.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I thought it'd make sense with the vaporwave crowd and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we love concept albums. We love full lengths, and we love like concept albums.
Sick. The other cool thing about it too is when I was doing a lot of the video work for it, because my friend did the concept art, and then I did all the like video promotion and bringing it all to life and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you guys saw any of the video promo stuff, but I did a lot of like circuit bent video glitch stuff for it.
Okay.
But through all that, when I'd pump everything back into like After Effects, it would like chug the computer out, and whenever that happens in After Effects, it slows everything down, including the audio. And I actually love it whenever I'm working on promo material, because I get to hear, like for the label, I always get to hear people's vaporwave versions of
the
their
slowed and
track.
reverb version.
Yeah. So I did hear a bunch of the Gunblaze Assault stuff being vaped out, and I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, right.
Maybe down the road I'll pull an Equip.
That one
Equip did that, right? Like,
yeah. That'd be great.
Oh, another vaporwave artist I love.
Collab. Shout out Equip. We love talking to him.
Yeah, he had the one album where
he's such a sweetheart.
Yeah. He took all his old stuff and then like slowed it and cut it up.
There's a dark synth artist.
I have a bunch of stuff on vinyl.
Hard. There's a dark synth guy called Alex that does his own like slowed and reverb redone versions of his tracks.
They do that a lot.
I've heard about Alex because like,
he did a lot of stuff with Tokyo Rose.
Exactly. Tokyo Rose reached out to me, and they've been wanting to collab forever, and this has been part of my like thing about fighting against the machines. Is I'm gonna start collaborating with a lot more artists just to make sure humans are pumping out as much content as possible to battle this.
I love collabs.
Yeah. So Tokyo Rose is one of the people I'm going to start working with. And through that, I keep seeing that they've been working with this Alex person, and I've been digging the stuff they turn out.
Yeah, they've got a really interesting sound font. It's like a dark synth sound font, but a completely different, like it's a genre bending,
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah, do that, man. Honestly, like, and your remixes are just legendary. I personally like your remix of the Gunship track better than the original. That's just my own
thank you so much.
preference.
Oh, really? You're a big Gunship fan.
Way better, in my opinion.
By the way, Gunship, Fox, I couldn't say enough good things about Dan and the boys, Dan and Alex. When I was doing Sentimental and the track with them on Sentimental, I'd actually written that track years ago, and they had blown up to the point where I didn't even know if Dan would still talk to me. And it was like, hey, buddy, remember that track we were working on and ready to release it now? And it was just so cool to see them get behind it. And Alex actually re-record parts of his vocals to make it better and stuff like that.
I love that. It seems like there's some real
they're genuinely good people. They're
yeah, man, I love
yeah.
people. You like, you know, them and Gotye, all these people who are willing to like step back and you know just work. Not just that's really cool, man. That's rare too. Like a lot of people sometimes they get like that and they're just you forgive them because they're too busy, but
By the way, Prince of Artie in the chat, shout out. I was hyping you up earlier. That's Dead Mascot on Instagram. Make sure you
what's up? The artist of Gunblaze Assault. All right.
Yep,
check out their work, Prince of Artie. Hey, on that topic of big names, Neon Pines Mall had a great question. Can you tell us a little bit about the Rise of the Synths documentary? How you were contacted, how you feel it turned out, how it feels to share a film credit with John Carpenter.
Yeah,
great question.
Great
this
question.
This is a good question. I was talking to Isaac. I'm like, I'm not gonna bash anyone, but those guys, man, let me tell you.
Okay,
let's see. How can I approach this respectably? The Rise of the Synths documentary, they reached out to me and they wanted to have me on there and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. I gave them so much really good content, in my opinion, that they didn't even use for that film, and instead focused on people that I don't know, no shade to anyone, but I feel like it could have been a lot better. Not just saying because it needs more Miami Nights, but I feel like the storytelling of how things actually happened. They have Laserhawk in there and he looks at a pinball machine and then he's out of the documentary, and he gave him a bunch of content too. It's like,
I didn't see the documentary.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I haven't seen it yet either. I do want to.
So do you think that this should have been like, as someone who was there and a big part of it, you're like, they're missing, the plot here?
They really focused on, it seems like 80s Stallone for the majority of it. And I mean, hey, he was there at the beginning with us. That's great. But I just feel like the story could have been told a little bit better. With that said, hey, Tangerine Dream's in there. That's sick. I get to be one of the people leading up to my love for Tangerine Dream. I love that about it. I'm sitting on a log in it.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right.
That's about okay.
Did they
so
did they put you on the soundtrack?
People who aren't involved in the scene doing the documentary. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah, sounds like they retconned a bunch of. Well, I guess we'll have to see.
You're in a movie with John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, John Carpenter. Okay, yeah. That part of it was huge. And once again, though, like, how sick is it that Gunship actually got to collab with Carpenter? Like, come on.
Oh my God.
Let's give the love to Gunship
Tim Capello
here,
too.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, they're so good at marketing themselves.
Yep.
It's something I'm super envious of.
I remember seeing the video teaser for the first album where they have the video accompaniments of all the tracks, and I was like, this is fucking unbelievably cool. It was like 2015 or something, and I was just like, all these years that I've been into synthwave and nobody else around me likes it. Now look at this. This is great.
And then their manga take on the last one was really sick too.
I have not listened to that one yet. I need to. Great question, Neon Pines Mall. Luxury Elite has another one. Throughout the years of making music, what has been the biggest inspiration for you and your sound? Could be movies, video games, other artists or groups, maybe a combination thereof.
Yeah. So obviously 80s cinema, 80s artists. So for me, when I was writing a lot of the early Miami Nights stuff, I would literally try and picture scenes from like John Hughes films and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty, like, I think it captures a lot of that with the first two albums. Like, you can kind of see where I'm coming from with that. And then for the stuff you like, Isaac, obviously like Tangerine Dream stuff, like love Michael Mann films and stuff like that. And then of course there were actually like modern artists, as I said in this interview, that like had inspired me too, like when I came across the Valerie Collective. I mean, when Richard was sending me stuff from Montreal in the early Ed Banger days, one of the people that I found that I got into right away was Kavinsky. So props to where it's due right there. But yeah, I mean, the inspiration from everything, man. Yeah, whether it's even just like 80s artwork too, right? So
great answer.
Hope that answers that.
No, and we've got a banger question for you coming up.
Oh,
Short
it's
stuff,
a banger.
888 question, possibly a hot take. Do you think synthwave has run its course? I mean, if so,
has it been outrun?
If so, has it been outrun?
Yeah.
All right, that's it for hot takes tonight. Good night, everybody. Just kidding. If so, what can artists do to push the boundaries of the genre, sir?
So yeah, I mean, I there's an ongoing joke in the synthwave community that synthwave is dead. I don't think
I've never
that's
heard
true.
that before.
Oh yeah, everyone says it, and I don't think that's true. I mean, it's only getting bigger and bigger with pop culture.
True. Because it feels like it's done for people who've known it for a long time because you've been listening. But a lot of people, they're just hearing it for the first time. Like,
yeah, true.
Exactly. Yeah. And in fact, I feel like it's gone on for so long that the original sound that got me into it, the original outrun stuff, I think it's time for it to come back, if anything.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah. As far as that goes, past that, I mean, there was a curator back in the day, this review guy, Iron Skullet, and I remember his whole thing was like trying to ruin synthwave artists' careers by shitting on them in his reviews so hard that they would quit, which actually happened.
What?
Yeah, there's a bunch of toxicity in the scene that was just like, I got lucky. For some reason, he said I had the best album of all time. But
okay.
I was just waiting for him to rip me to shreds.
You're gonna have to tell me later who quit, because it better not be somebody I liked.
I don't know. I can't remember who they were. I was talking about this recently with a friend, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy quit because of it. And I remember this. I remember them making a post in like whatever it was at the time, whether it was Synthetics or just a synthwave page, but saying like, I'm fucking done, fuck this. But he went on to become part of the Fixed label that was like trying to be the
Scandroid's label.
Scandroid's label, and their whole thing was like, oh, the future of synthwave is going to be this clean, polished machine. But excuse me, in my opinion, that's just not what synthwave was about. I mean, for me, it was like the grittiness of having it actually sound like it was like run off a VHS tape and shit like that. Like a lot of the things that like the vaporwave community actually kind of took on too, that like sick lo-fi aspect of it, was always the stuff that attracted me to the original synthwave sound.
Of course,
As far as it evolving into something, like, I think he was wrong about that. I'm sure there is an audience for that super clean, polished stuff, but my ears don't
that would be
work
like
that
the
way.
chill synth people. Like the Stratford.
Yeah, maybe. I think,
pools.
and I think chill synth is sick. Like you're talking about hotel pools and stuff like that. I think it's great. I think a lot of it like starts to like. It's funny because I do have like a chill synth EP. I'm thinking about turning out too. But I think like you get into it, and a lot of it is just cranking resonance on the filter.
I hear that.
Probably the most popular song is called Resonance, for sure.
Yeah, true.
But there's a reason for that, and eventually a lot of it starts to kind of, I think it's the same thing with synthwave. A lot of it sounds the same, but it was fine like with me going over a lot of this stuff to be like, well, how do I make sure that these upcoming releases will be somewhat relevant and all this stuff with like targeting audiences. I gotta say, like, and I'm not trying to be mean, but if you listen to the majority of a lot of the new stuff coming out from the scene, it's not like anything that I think, for me, when I'm writing, a lot of it's emotion, and I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm hearing just lacks that. And
I agree, man. It doesn't have that melodrama that they had in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
Very much
And that's how you can distinguish, like, you listen for music to find the feelings within it, the feelings of the person who wrote it. You can tell the difference when it's being written from that point, when it's communicating feelings through the sound waves, as opposed to it being like a job or a task or someone's trying to
Yep.
accomplish a goal. Like, I
Yeah.
don't like that. And I can do, and I feel like I'm pretty good at telling the difference between that. And I see what you're saying about, like, people are just trying to follow a rubric to make something. But it's
Totally.
Yep.
Like it's like they're like, oh well, this is an arpeggiated sound. This is synthwave, and it's like,
Yeah.
no.
Oh no.
Me and Richard actually always laugh
wow,
about this
Power
because there
Rob
was
is
this
here.
earlier, what's their called? What's their name? What's Square Pusher's relative's name? CFAX Acid Crew. There's this documentary on him back in the day where he's stressing about these super important notes, but really it is about having important notes, and each note should mean something, in my opinion, when you're writing music. You can't just you can't have all the ingredients there and just think you're going to make a beautiful cake. It's like there has to be some sort of artistic component in there, which for me are usually making sure you're playing the right notes to sort of like emit some sort of emotional response from it. So
Thoroughly
a
agree.
lot of the modern hey, Power Rob,
Yeah,
shout
Power
outs to
Rob in the chat.
Rob. He's the only vocalist I'll work with.
He's
Much love
got
to that.
a set of pipes on him, that's for sure.
Super talented cat, and he's committed. There's been so many times where I'll work with like I don't really want to talk about that too much, but there's certain people
we know
you'll
who
work
the good
with, and
ones
sometimes
are.
it just doesn't click.
Yeah.
But he is committed, and it's like there's very few people I just trust with, kind of like what we're talking about with Cameron and the artwork, and him trusting me with the music. The same thing there, and same thing with Dead Mascot with the visual art stuff too. It's like I'm lucky to be working with all these other super talented people where we just mentally click on stuff, and much love.
Yes.
Can't be understated. Hey, we got time for a couple more questions, guys. If you want to go ahead and put them in the chat. We are almost done. While we wait on anyone else to ask their final question for the night, let me ask you, man, what is the single best way for your fans to support you right now?
Great question.
Ooh. I love this. This is great, guys. It's been funny. I'm like, should I start a Patreon? And then it's like, okay, if I do a Patreon, I got to make sure that I'm, producing stuff for the fans that do contribute to that. That's something I'm thinking about looking at down the road. I'd say, I mean, it's a tough one for me because I get what it's like being the listener who, might not be able to afford to pay for a streaming service or be able to afford to pay for the album or the physical or whatever. Just show the love where you can. Throw a nice comment in there if you can't afford to do that kind of stuff. Show your love where you can, and I'm happy. Other than that, it's funny because I was gonna say this to maybe some of the other artists out there, but I was going over my analytics, and it looks like YouTube Music actually pays the artist more than what Spotify does per
Very cool.
Yeah, which is weird because I've watched YouTube videos on this and they say the opposite. But going over my own numbers, it looks like they seem to pay the artist more. So, I mean, switch your subscription base to YouTube. You should be anyways. There's better content on there than that Spotify crap anyways. And I mean, I would think, especially with the vaporwave community, like YouTube doesn't seem to have the same sort of restrictions I think Spotify has on if you are doing like the kind of like Plunderphonics thing or whatever. So that's my take on it. I don't know. I don't know what to really say, but just valid. If your heart's in the right place, you're showing love. I'm a happy guy, so I'm happy to have anyone even listening to my stuff in the first place. So
hell yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we have some classic questions that we typically ask everybody, but we don't have time to ask all of them, so I'm just going to choose the best of three. If you had to, since we know you fuck with concept albums, rank these three things in terms of importance. And those three things are album art, album title, and track titles.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
Out of those, That's a really good question. They're so like it has to be the full package, right? But I mean, I've always kind of said, like, going back when we were talking about MySpace and stuff like that, there has to be the visual aesthetic there for what I like doing. I think it goes hand in hand with the music. So I'm gonna say the album art's probably an important one. But I mean, then if you have a track and they're not looking at the album art, it's got a stupid name to it or a really good name to it.
Oh no.
I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm just gonna say the art. Get some good art.
It's important.
People love having that. I think it's a sick thing when you pull it up on your phone and you got this nice little picture there and it looks sexy and hot. So
We've always gone pretty in on branding for the show, so thoroughly agree.
Yeah. Visual aesthetics.
Very
Like, I always talk about value theory with everything, and like it's like, especially because like I'm into consumerism, right? And I am one of those guys that will research the shit out of anything before I buy it. But even with the hours and hours of research I'll put into buying the tiniest, dumbest thing, if it doesn't look hot, I don't buy it. So aesthetics.
Love it. Man, I hate to leave so many good questions on the table, but we got to wrap up. It's been fun, but what we like to do...
Let's do one more.
One more? Let's do one more. All right.
One more. Let's do one more.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm finding the other one because we always ask people if they prefer My Bloody Valentine or Slow Dive.
Yeah. The emo questions.
Yeah. And then
I don't know.
where the fuck is the other one? Oh, two people asked the same one. So yeah.
Wait, what's like you hate it? There's like a modern thing that you dislike. Remember that one you always ask, Shiro? Modern.
Wait, two people asked the same question. Let's
well,
help the fans
it
out
was
here.
the album art,
this
track
is like
title, and
Isaac
album
asked
title
the
question.
Well, Isaac, what's the thing of like what's a modern convention in music that you can't stand? Isn't that something you ask a version of that question, Isaac?
I mean, I told you last night, Michael. I was like, some questions I'll ask are like, what ruins a song for you? Is that what you mean?
That's funny. I was thinking about that on my walk today.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, for sure. Bad vocals. Hey, Power Rob. Much love to you. So you don't do bad vocals. He gives the hotness.
Right.
But yeah,
Very
bad
cool.
vocals, man. It's like there's so much of it out there.
Yeah,
So much of it out there, and I'll listen, and I'm like, oh, the backing track, this could have been great, but then you got this vocal on it that's just like, I hate to say it too, because like I don't want to. It's definitely not like I don't know, not a prejudice thing or anything like that, but like accented vocals for me just don't work. It's like there'll be like someone singing and there's this heavy accent going on. It's like I hear the vibe you're trying to go for, but it just doesn't work for me.
Hey man, it's subjective,
hopefully I don't get
right?
hate for that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I personally prefer instrumental music, so I'm kind of with you on that. Like, words don't really matter to me, but hey, most people.
With that said, though,
way.
like if you're fucking your vocals up on purpose, like pitching it like Desert Sand, once again, like he sings gibberish and slows it down, and it's like, this is epic. It's so good. Like,
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, man of the people, Miami Nights 1984, everybody. Before we wrap up,
thanks so much for having me.
One more thing, man.
It was a real pleasure.
It really has been. If there's anything you want to promote, any people you want to shout out, or just any parting thoughts, you have the floor.
Oh, okay, sick. If you guys are into video game OST stuff, definitely check out my latest release, Gunblaze Assault. It's been a bit of a marketing nightmare because apparently assault is a very sensitive word.
Oh, yikes. Good point. Damn.
So, yeah, it's so funny because no one was able to share the project or anything anytime I used the name of the album. So
that's wild.
Yeah, so there's that. Mad shouts to a lot of the artists I've been working with that are in the chat right now. I mean, Power Rob.
Thank you guys for being
Prince
here.
of Artie, who is Dead Mascot on Instagram. Of course, longtime homies that are in here too, Richard Michael Owen and stuff like that. Other than that, stay tuned. I just started an actual proper Miami Nights YouTube channel. Maybe check that out. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff on there. I'm going to be releasing a ton of content this year and more personal stuff, maybe showing like how I do things in the studio and all that kind of jazz.
I think that's smart.
Yeah, it's going to be a content creation year. So, so I'm already going to go back to the interview.
Yeah, you can look back through here and be like, this is what people want to know, you know?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, like for my own studio, like I was writing notes about all the different things that you're using for tracking and on your USB. No, I really like because I'm in that process currently of setting up my.
Well,
studio.
Chris, why are we homies, man? Me and Isaac have been like buds for a while now.
I don't know, but we can be homies. We should be homies.
Right?
I have many questions for you. Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it up. Cool.
Let's do it up, indeed, my friend.
Hell yeah. Are we doing one of these, boys?
Yeah, we can. Boom.
Let's do it.
I love it. All right, cool.
So Miami Nights 1984, everybody. So, we'll just let you guys know.
Much love to your audience too, guys. Thank you for all the questions. Thanks for having me. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing. Love Vaporwave, all that stuff, all the waves.
All the waves.
Let's go.
You are too kind. I got a couple things coming up. We got a live stream event that is being put together by one lost traveler called Underground Space 4 that I completed a 30-minute 80s R&B and smooth jazz DJ set for. I don't remember when he's doing it, but it's coming up. Hasn't really been announced, so hopefully I'm not in any sort of trouble. But if you like 80s and 90s R&B and smooth jazz, I mixed some good shit, some Chucky Booker, some Mark Morrison, some Juicy, all the good stuff together, and that's coming up in March. And then another thing that's kind of a secret, actually the guy putting it together is in chat, so maybe you can tell me if I'm allowed to talk about it or not. But I got a 15 to 25-minute set that I've started working on. Okay, he said it in chat. Vapor Loot Festival 2 lineup announcement tomorrow. I'm putting together a set right now, and it's going to be 15 to 25 minutes of lo-fi house, but a specific type of lo-fi house that samples Memphis rap. So it'll be really exciting.
Hell yeah.
Very vibey, man. A lot of like, Tommy Wright the Third type stuff, but with some really vibey like pads and just you know what it is. Working on that right now.
Really quickly, do you guys fuck with Noah Praise God?
Noah Praise God. I've not heard of it, but the description you gave sounds like something we both would fuck with.
He's sick. Yeah, I mean, I feel like not a lot of people know about him, but
Noah Praise God.
I think you'll dig it.
Dude, I'm always down. I mean, I'm a DJ, so I'm always down for recommendations. And then we got Sanctuary Live coming up March 29th in Columbus, Ohio at 3 p.m. at Cafe Bourbon Street. We're going to be putting together a show. Crystal Eternal with Nostalgia Lounge put the show together. And it's going to be me, Luxury Noise, Fiji, Van Gogh, KJ Valium, and a bunch of other really cool people raising money for Trans Ohio. So I haven't even started yet, but I'm going to be playing 35 minutes of breakcore. Shout out breakcore. Just some of the fastest, most violent sewer slut adjacent stuff that ever was made.
Shout out sewer slut.
Hell yeah. So I'm going to be showing up and raising money for Trans Ohio. Show up, guys. $10 donation. Let's show up and show out for trans rights in Ohio on March 29th, 3 p.m. at Cafe Bourbon Street. Skelly, what do you got going on?
Not much yet at the moment. We just did Eclipse, which is the big dance party, the 2-room dance party with the traditional goth music in one room, and then the witch house and dark synth and all the other stuff in the other room. We just did that on Friday, and I think we're going to be doing another one of those at Undergrounds in about 2.5 months. I think we'll have another one of those coming up. Aside from that, my new album Death Romantique is out. No more cassettes remain, but I do have artist copies. So if anybody, and I do have a live version of that album that I can play with band members. And
with a band member now.
So I suppose I will. I don't have any shows yet, but at some point I'm sure that will happen. But nothing. That's it. Nothing for me really.
You know what, man? It's coming though. I feel it because I've seen those Death Romantique posts. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight and allowing us to take your 2 hours of valuable time. Thank you, Miami Nights 1984, for coming through. It means so much.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So you'll see this on YouTube in the next coming days, and on podcasting services. You'll find it on Spotify, Audible, Amazon, all coming up the next few days. If you like hot takes, check us out. Follow us. Check out our socials. We brought a lot of really cool people that are not just vaporwave, but vapor adjacent artists on the show. We would love to have you guys join the crew over at the Discord as well, if anybody's interested. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up because we're a little bit over time. Tune in, same time, same place, 2 weeks from now. That's Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the 17th of February. We're going to have another remix episode. You remember that? Remember when we brought Limerence and Christ back? So we're doing that again, except this time we're bringing back Luxury Elite and Frank Jav C. Monday, February 17, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you there.
Frank Jav C. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right,
So memory design, by the way. Memory design. Much love.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Much love, you guys. Mwah. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an awesome night.